Okay, so I'm not sure. Okay, so let's first look at the first thing I brought up, and you need to watch the first video, a kind of introduction to sort of an overall picture, so that you'll know. Um, what I'm doing is I'm going through the various things that we need to look at. Um, and the first one was and is that in order for a a uh, a organization to thrive, it needs to be in harmony with the culture and the values and so forth and so on, customs of the country and the surrounding countries, but or a group of countries that have similar cultures, such as the Netherlands or Europe, or particular countries have different cultures. It needs to align itself with their with their peoples, and and be in harmony with them. For example, if you have a Japanese organization in Iceland, the Japanese people may be very excited and enthusiastic about it, but most of the Icelanders will find it a bit foreign, and they do odd things. They get excited about things that Icelanders are not really interested in, and a lot of times they start speaking Japanese or whatever it is, and are interested, and so it doesn't. So a lot of Japanese, if there are Japanese people there, they'll come. Some odd ducks from other cultures may find it interesting, the odd person. Um, but on the whole, it won't become a popular organization in Iceland. It's just not Icelandic. And so the same thing applies to our organization, which is involves a spiritual gift, which is wide, and can involve all of mankind, and is suited to all of mankind, but has to be prosecuted, and as on the earth, and has to be having to do with the peoples in specific locations. And so this is why Subi explained early on that you need to organize your Subu group in the ways that are normal for your culture. And what are some of the ways that things are normal for a culture? Well, you're all going to speak the common language. You are going to meet in a building and at times and places that are commonly done in the evening or on weekends, and you're going to comport yourself in the standard acceptable ways that people in that country comport themselves, and dress the way they dress and so forth. I'm not talking about conforming. Everybody in every country, they have people that they're not just conforming. But they stay within limits, and things which are like totally banished or shunned by the society, they don't participate in those. So they stay in harmony with their group. And then, in terms of how things are run, which is the key thing, they need to be run, in a normal way, and for that country. In other words, like in the West, most countries have someone they vote to be president, or the the chairman of the committee, or the executive, whatever, and they vote that person in. They feel good about that person, and we can do that also in Subud in a normal way. And how would we do that in a normal way? Well, here's a key thing that is very important, that we would not deviate from the norm and say, okay, now we're going to have a bunch of our people go off in a room, or even in front of us, and then kind of try to receive or feel who would be the best person for this job, and then whatever they feel, that would be the person that is chosen. You could do that, and you could hope that some people would accept it, but there's a lot of difficulties there, because what if, some people don't feel the same way and didn't get the same thing or receive the same thing? And so there would have to be voting. But even then, it's a kind of a right off the bat, a sort of different way of doing things. It's like, it separates. It's like saying, well, the main committee will meet and decide. The chairman of the board of supervisors and the directors will decide who is best suited for this job, and that person will be the new supreme leader of our group, whatever. Doesn't work, does it? It's not something that it puts the people off. Well, how come he gets it? Because he's rich, that's why. Or he's a very popular guy, but he's not really suited for the job, and it goes on and on. So a much better way to get a chairman of a group, in other words, the person that's going to be kind of the executive producer, going to be in charge of kind of directing and making sure that taking some leadership and seeing that things are done in a good and successful way. It should be a person that is freely chosen from the entire group, poor, wealthy, lean, overweighted, smart, dumb, the entire group, whatever their composition is, can nominate and put forward a name of somebody. This is all very common stuff in the Western world. This is how we do things. And then that person will be considered, and then you'll have a list normally of a group of people, and then the voting will take place. And let's examine the reasons for this, because people, first of all, have wisdom, and some of them, some have wisdom and some don't. But of those who do, and normally there's a fairly good size group of people that are pretty smart, pretty wise, pretty clear-headed about things. They can see, well, so-and-so would be good at this job. And another group say, well, they're not so wise. They say, well, she's so pretty, I think it would be nice to have her do it. Or this one's so intelligent, even though I don't know how they lead, but they're pretty intelligent. They can figure out all the smart things to do, and then we'd be in good hands. And this one's, real popular, and a social person is very social and would be good. And so none of those things are really to the point of having a good leader. I mean, they have aspects. You don't want an unpopular person. You don't want a person who is socially, not adept, and so and can't do things, can't get things done. You don't want some intellectual who always thinking about everything, never does anything. Somebody who's too quick on the draw and jumps to conclusions. There's lots of things that you don't want. So the membership then would put forward different people, and then in the normal way of things, they would vote, and whoever got the most votes would become the new chairman for that term. Okay. Now, how could we insert the spiritual aspect? Because one of the main tenets of the organization, which Baha himself put forward, was that God would know who would be best. And so that if we would follow our guidance and our inner direction, that we would be able to choose someone who has the qualities that we need. However, in practice, this hasn't worked out. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't, lots of times it doesn't. And there are various reasons for that. But anyway, I don't want to get off into a lot of details. But the thing of it is how to do this in a way which is normal, and yet at the same time has a spiritual, that inner, that guidance from God is very simple. And how it is not through testing, but it's because testing is actually more complicated than it appears. It appears very simple. You ask a question, you get an answer. Is Bob good? Yes, Bob's good. Okay, Bob's the guy. But actually, in the reality of how things work in the spiritual world, it can depend quite a bit on how the question is put, what the source of the question is, and what the interests are of the various people who are receiving that test, whether they might be influenced. There's a lot of there's a minefield there, and you might not think so, but actually, trust me, in fact, it's turned out to be that way. And so, people can be easily swayed, particularly when they're just starting out with something you don't know much. So the way that I propose, and you can tell me if you think that there's a better way, it's where my guidance has led me, but let me just tell you what it is, and that is, you can ask people, you can even train your group together, you can train. Because one of the first things that you are able to do in terms of the gift itself is that you're able to be moved physically. Maybe not right at first, but then very quickly most people, the vast majority, are able to be moved. They can be moved, so their hands can be moved by the power of God, by the inner direction, by the spirit of things, and not by their own self. So you can ask that the people who nominate other people discipline themselves and only nominate somebody that they're moved to nominate. Then you can have each one of them, because we kind of devalue what they may think and so forth and so on. So this way, we could say a few things, or they could refuse the nomination on the basis they didn't want to do it, or they were too busy, or they didn't feel this and that. And because people can be losers about things and not have full faith, and if they don't want to be open and subject themselves to something a bit unknown, maybe they think, well, I don't know if I could do it or not. Those kind of people don't ever get very far anyway, so maybe you wouldn't want them to be chairman, but on the whole, not looking for difficulties, a bunch of people would be nominated through people being moved, hopefully, and that would be important. And let's just take this up. If they, you can always have objections to everything. So you can say, well, yeah, but what if they faked it? Well, I'll tell you what. If you have a group of people and they're busy faking things, then they're not worth much until they get what they deserve. But if you have honest, sincere people, which we are all, directed to be honest and sincere, and not fake things, to be real and be ourselves as much as we can. So anyway, so they would be moved. In other words, for instance, I'm thinking about Jane, but I don't feel anything. Now I'm thinking about Bob, and I still don't feel anything. Now I think about Frank. Oh, Frank? Okay, maybe. But maybe I'll hesitate on that. Maybe Frank. We can put him up there. And now I remember Jessica. Now I feel something strong. I raise my hand and say, I nominate Jessica blah, blah, blah. Now there were 5 or 6 people, but that was the one that moved me. So that is an inner direction, isn't it? It's coming from the Spirit. So in this way, you could say that God is moving me to nominate this person. Now we're going to vote. And so now when we vote, we must do the same thing. We must be disciplined and not say to ourselves, oh, Frank, I like Frank. Let's have Frank. Hey, Frank, how you doing? Let's have Frank do it. Not really knowing what we're doing. But we will then have self-restraint, as it says in the Quran. Allah loves a person that restrains themselves. We can also have self-restraint. So here comes Frank, and feel much, so don't vote for him. And now a bunch of others, and let's just say, in this case, that somebody that I didn't nominate, but they were moved to nominate, but has. Let's talk about. Well, I was going to say Jessica, but I don't want to get like, oh yeah, but nobody else knows. So let's just say it was Francisca. And so now it comes time to vote for Francisca. No. So in my case, but now we have Jessica, and so Jessica's, yeah, okay, she'll be good enough. You can feel how good she'll be. And in the way we do it, it says, what are her attitudes, what is this? And all these things come from man's thoughts and everything else. So they don't really have, the full picture. In other words, a person who's going to be good at the job is somebody that at that time in their life is able to be guided and directed by God in their actions in a good and successful way, and is ready to do that. And may not be later, or may not have been before, but now that's their time. So we have them come in, and they're marvelous and do all kinds of good things, and then we hopefully repeat this process over and over again. So then let me reiterate, the first thing is to form the group in the locality in the ways of that locality. Let's take a tough one. Let's say it's a Muslim community. Well, first they say their prayers, and then they quiet their heart and they ask God for direction and stuff like this. They can do all those things and still vote, because we want to be very, very careful, as we've found from experience, not to elevate a person, give them a position, and make them feel like they, or even think that they are better than anyone else. It's just that they're suited for this job at this time. They have the qualities that we need. Bob is a master carpenter and has the talents we need to build a staircase. So let's have Bob do it. That kind of thing. And so but wider. So that's how. And you tell me if you think of a better way. You see something that's better. These are all things I can tell you. I don't expect you to believe it, but these are all things that over the many years, this is where my guidance has come again and again and again. This is the way to do it successfully. So that's the first thing, to have the group being culturally aligned to their community, so that each location, each region, let's say, you can have guidance about this, but each region would arrange things differently. They would have a different way of doing things. So in the matter of how to have a popular organization that was accepted by the community and was led by someone who everyone agreed that was the vote and that's who they will follow, so that he had support, or she had support, this is the best way to do it. So that's number one. And you let me know if you think there's a better way. But speak to the point, and hopefully with some content, not just a fancy, not just ideas, but let's discuss this. All right, that's what it looks to me to be the way to do it.